Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the bonus episode, but for all intents and purposes, the series finale of Let's Go Karaoke. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I talked about this in the previous episode upon looking it up, but yeah, this episode is an anime original. It's not from the manga. Where the last episode ended is where the manga ended. So this episode, I kind of went into it having some context. I mean, to be fair, it's been over a month since I looked into it, so I wasn't fully sure what the context of this episode was going to be. I wasn't expecting the reason why, because he does not say it, because you get the scene at the end, which is basically the end scene from the previous episode. He dances around, and I guess understandably why he probably didn't want to tell Satomi. He was locked up for those 3 years. That's why, Satomi was like, after that day at the karaoke, I didn't get contact with him and all that. He never reached out. It's like, oh, because he was in prison. He was locked up for beating the ever-living crap out of that guy who he beat up before, who came crashing into him. So, yeah, he was 3 years passed by. And, I think I said this during last episode, but I thought this bonus episode was going to be like showing you that 3 years in between. It's like, no. Which I think it's kind of interesting because this episode works so beautifully in conjunction and in contrast with last episode, because last episode was 90% Satomi, 10% Kyoji. And now we have this episode being the inverse of it's 90% Kyoji, 10% Satomi. It's like, it is interesting how that works out like that. But yeah, Kyoji gets out, and the guards are telling him hey man, keep it, keep yourself out of trouble and stuff like that. It's like, wow, were you really only here for 3 years? Or maybe it seemed even quicker. Whatever the case may be, one of his first stops was a convenience store to pick up a pack of smokes. And he's like, well, it's pretty chilly. I might as well go to that bathhouse. Oh, it's closed. Cool, things change a lot. And he's up there and obviously he hears a girl talking, and hears her name Satomi, and he looks up, but it's her talking to another girl. It's interesting because he makes it sound who's Satomi again later on, but I think that's him being too bashful. Because he says to Satomi at the end I was thinking a lot about you. It's he probably did, but he probably tried to downplay it quite a bit, because he probably was I don't want to seem I was missing the kid that much. So maybe that was him just downplaying it in front of the other Yakuzas and stuff like that, but he was actually going to get a drink that they had. He was like, oh, that seems interesting, so I'll get it. But then he ends up going to the karaoke place, and he's like, oh, was it karaoke heaven? He's like, oh, man, place is still the same way. Opens up, everyone from the family's there, and it's like, oh, Kyoji, when'd you get out? He's like, oh, I just got out. And they're like, because they're like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, yeah, I just got out. And they're like, oh, just the most cavalier. Oh, it's not oh my God, you got out. It's I guess, I don't know if him getting out, I guess it was a surprise considering no one knew he was getting out today. So everyone's just kind of chilling, and I should have figured as much, but it didn't cross my mind. But you can see them kind of practicing, and I love those two guys who are yelling at each other, but they're complimenting each other, yelling compliments at each other about oh my God, you sound great, or your vibrato, or yada yada yada, complimenting each other, but they're yelling at each other. And then there's the whole thing of you need to have tofu, because it's about cleansing your edges of you, and so you're less likely to go to prison because you're kind of getting rid of any dark or bad stuff. So you from a superstition standpoint, you're supposed to even out and get rid of any rough edges. And it's oh yeah, here's this tofu. The guy's that's not tofu. Apparently it's almond tofu, but I guess it's it needs to be just pure regular tofu, or because it's that brand of tofu, he doesn't count it. But either way. But they also bring up the fact this is Kyoji's second time going to prison, so they're obviously doesn't mean any, I guess it only is applicable when you go to jail the first time. After this being your second time, it doesn't mean as much, but it seems like he ate it, because we see the top to it is going. So I don't know if we actually saw him eat it, but the top of the tofu was removed. But we find out, the boss calls up and they're oh, it's ready, and it's oh my God, did something happen to the boss? And he they let him know. It's yo, it's karaoke day. He's like, what? No, that's in November, right? But yeah, we're past that. So but he's yeah, the boss was sick last time, so we had to postpone. And it's cool. The day you get out of prison is the day that the karaoke goes down. I was oh, you unlucky bastard. And even he's sitting in the toilet being if I just gotten out one day later, I could have avoided this. I avoided it for the next like 2 years, but oh boy, did I manage to land at it the perfect time. Because I thought, I was like, I don't even have to worry about it. We're past that point after 3 years. And it's like, nope, it almost makes you wonder, did the boss choose this day specific? But he did act like he didn't know Kyoji got out, but maybe he did, and he specifically chose this day to kind of be like, hey, it was postponed, but hey, let's do it like this too, because Kyoji got out, so it works as a, added bonus to the celebration. Because Kyoji was trying to worm his way out of it. He's like, obviously I don't need to participate, boss. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? Of course you got to participate. He's like, guys, I was locked up. You guys had 3 years to, practice. You guys had, not 3 years. They've had plenty of time to practice and stuff like that. Because what's also concerning for Kyoji is, their boss has gotten worse with the tattoos and stuff. There's just, first and foremost, Hello Kitty guy has another goddamn cat tattoo above it now. I was like, oh, you bastard. So you definitely, we don't know if you just lost, who knows, the tattoos could be on your other arm or on your legs, but man. Then there's the one guy who has a watch tattooed on his wrist, and then finally there's the last guy who's got a family, he has, faces on his fingers. They even said the poor bastard can't even it has trouble opening his phone now because of that. I was like, that sucks so much. I also love that little bit where Kyoji was trying to stop a fight between some of the guys. He's like, yo, guys, come on. Hey, you don't want to be yelling like that. You've been practicing. You want to dry your throat out. And then he pauses. Kyoji's like, actually, you know what? Never mind. Go ahead and do that. He's like, the worse you suck, the better I'm going to be, because I have not practiced in these 3 years I've been locked up. I didn't think about it. Once again, why would that even be on my mind when I'm getting out? And even if I did get out, it's like, oh, but the competition's already passed. Either way, but the boss is like, yeah, the rules of the situation is the only people who get to skip the karaoke competition are those who are dead. And it's like, are you dead, Kyoji? He's like, no, I'm alive for now. So, and then we hear the performances. Everyone's gotten better. That last guy got me. And he sounds like he's auditioning for a metal band or something. It's not necessarily screaming, but he's yelling a lot. And just even Kyoji's kind of in his old man status of oh my God, is that music these days? I don't get music these days. Yeah, it's a super popular song called Shut Up. So it's oh God. And then we get to Kyoji's turn. And of course, Kyoji's pulling out the classic Crimson, which I am now familiar with Japan. Still haven't listened to their music, but I only became aware of them because of this season of Dandadan. It's the only reason why I'm familiar with them. Because Dandadan was airing, I don't know if we had gotten to that episode by the time Let's Go Karaoke was playing. And even if it did, because I don't know. I probably still didn't correlate or connect the dots there, so that might be my fault. But that episode might have been after Let's Go Karaoke in it, but it probably coincided. But either way, that's also the episode that led to some legal issues that I think have calmed down and been okay, but I heard something else that contradicted that. Whatever the case may be, it wasn't on the band side of things. It was more so a label, Sony as a label side of things. But either way, I'm going on a tangent. I was like, oh boy. I was actually expecting, there was a little bit of time where I almost was thinking, oh my God, I'm curious to see how he does. He's out of practice. And then I remembered, wait, you idiot. You already know the conclusion of this story because he has the tattoo. Last episode, I was like, right. We already know what the end result is. The question was just hearing it. And oh my God. Because we never got to hear Kyoji during the competition because obviously Satomi ended up singing it. So, but also this is him 3 years out of practice and it is not good. But hey, he's putting his all into it and turns out, yes, he is the loser this time around or winner depending on perspective. And everyone's being like, yeah, I'm so glad you're back, Kyoji, because you being at the bottom makes us all look better. So cool. Funny enough, he was trying to throw them under the bus to be like, nah, go ahead and make me look better. And you ended up doing the opposite and making them look better. So I love that. And everyone's talking about like, oh yeah, like that kid, they're all taking the lessons that Satomi, like they're all making critiques about what he did. In fact, they're like, you suck, you just straight up suck. He's like, why does that sound so familiar? They're like, yeah, your teacher said that stuff all the time. It's like, yeah, but his performance, it was so beautiful, full of soul. Hell, even the boss cried when the people's like, shh, don't bring that up. But yeah, obviously he has, like I said earlier, I think he tried to downplay how much he missed Satomi. I think there probably was a part of him that thought like, I probably shouldn't reach out. It's like, come on, like what he says to him at the end of like, yeah, you're a kid, I didn't want to be like that guy in your life. You just let the kid grow up and enjoy his life. I already kind of like jumped in the middle of like your life out of nowhere. So I think probably some of that was his justification, because he had already made the decision in his head. We saw the beginning of this episode and the tail end of this episode, but it was also used in episode 4 as well, if I remember correctly. The whole line of like, it was only a matter of time. My life was pretty much like, it was only a matter of time before I basically jumped the shark and like my life would go off the rails and stuff like that. It was just only a matter of time before that happened. So I think he probably didn't want to continue doing that to Satomi. Just probably was like, well, this kind of acted as like a nice clean break, and he has his phone charged and everything, and just he has a missed call, and I think it was from Satomi, and I think Satomi called him maybe like the one time, and that might have been like when he was calling him after the accident. That might have been that phone, but there was no like, Satomi didn't reach out because I guess he was waiting for Kyoji to do it, and because Kyoji never did, he never reached out either. It kind of is in line with who Satomi is as well, personality wise. But yeah, the time has come where it's the moment of truth where Kyoji has to come over and get the tattoo. And he's just kind of like, we could just choose not to do this. But he's like, no, suck it up. You're going to do it. And he's decided like, oh, wait, what do you want? It's like, do you want a tattoo of something you like or you don't like? Which is so interesting because he did have that conversation with Satomi about like, oh yeah, like maybe tell him something you don't like, but you actually like. That way, no matter how shitty the tattoo comes out to be, it'll still be something you like. But the problem is the tattoo was still going to come out shitty. So that was just kind of the rub of it all. And I love that he's like, well, if you don't like anything or this or anything, it's like, oh, I'll make it poop then. And then he's like, no, anything but poop. How about you make, I like curry. He's like, oh, curry, that's close enough to poop. And he's just like, and then the charm falls out of his pocket. It's the one that Satomi had given him. And because it was still in his jacket pocket, I believe. So he didn't have it with him when he was in prison, sadly. So it's funny that he would have it now during this whole situation, but I guess it all beautifully works out because that got him thinking about Satomi. And it's like, oh, well, if you want me to, I could draw the kid's face. It looks like this, right? It's like, it's pretty good when he draws it non-tattoo form wise, but then it's like, nah, just spell out his name. And it's like, okay. And the boss does it. It's like, oh, it doesn't hurt as much. He's like, yeah, like, because the boss has actually gotten better, and the lettering actually comes out pretty well. It's like, oh, this is actually dope. He's like, yeah, I've gotten better. What'd you think? He's like, but then Kyoji's thinking to himself, it's like, well, you sacrificed a couple of your men to kind of get to this point, and think about the more recent tattoos and stuff. So also how he goes about picking is like an eeny, meeny, mighty, mo situation. I'm like, that's how it's not even up to the person. You get to choose what. I think maybe they brought that up about, but I don't think they ever talked about how he went about choosing it. It is so, it's like, eeny, meeny, mighty, mo, it's going to be your arm. And obviously your face, your arms, your legs are all like on the table for that situation. It's like, Jesus Christ. The boss had even said like Kyoji didn't have to come back. I guess like, I don't know if like being in prison kind of frees you of like I was about to say like he doesn't really have a debt towards the boss. It's just kind of like like you being like, the moment you got out, you could just go in anywhere. You're not like obligated to come back. I guess like you coming back, your obligation now, but initially like I expect, once again, I'm ignorant on like the rules of the Yakuza. I'd assume like once you go to prison and come, like I don't think that completely severs your connection, but it's just kind of like, yeah, you could have been anywhere because it's just this simple crossing of paths back in the day is what led them here. And, Kyoji just kind of got swept up in it. He's just a very, like, go with the flow type of person, just kind of takes things as is. Um, but for Kyoji, it's like, yeah, but where else am I gonna go? So this is home. So we don't really know, and I don't think the series never really explored it, but like what his family situation is. Obviously, he's got siblings. Whether his grandparents are still around, everything with his mom. Like, is he just not tight with his family upon becoming a yakuza, or what? Or did he? Maybe they touched on that even a tiny bit during the flashback bits of last episode. But you have Kyoji being sent to Japan for work, and there at the airport, lo and behold, he runs into Satomi, and it's like, oh, it's just funny how it all works out. And then he sits down with him, and we have the conversation at the end of last episode. It's just, once again, just beautiful knowing the lead up to it and Kyoji's perspective on it, and once again, how much of the story he left out upon getting there. So I thought that was kind of hilarious. And I mean, hilarious and kind of dark, and just, once again, you went to jail for 3 years, and Satomi just thought like, he's like, oh, I thought you were like dead by now or something like that. And Satomi, he made all these excuses to Satomi, but once again, it's like, you didn't bother explaining to him like, oh, I went to prison for 3 years, because you're like, why bother the kid about stuff like that? But it's like, oh yeah, look at this tattoo and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it's the boss has kind of gotten better, and it's like, oh, it's like, what he say? It's like, he gave also an excuse about why it was Satomi. It was kind of like the boss's idea, but he did kind of like, he didn't have to co-sign it. He was kind of perfectly fine with it. In fact, he's the one that chose the lettering for it. And so it's like, I'd rather, the letter and, the wording rather than like a picture. So. And it's like, yeah, like, we should go to karaoke. You gotta pick up, that practice. And then the little post-credit thing of him being like, also, why don't you ever scream like, this is Crimson or something like that during the song? So Tommy's like, I'm pretty sure that's not part of the lyrics. He's like, yeah, but it's kind of a thing you have to do. Like, it's kind of a cool thing to do. You should do it the next time you sing the song. He's like, almost like, sure, Kyoji, So just thought that was just kind of like a lovely end. Like, I think it's such a nice thing to kind of give you that background up to that moment. I think that's kind of like filling in that space in that moment. I think is kind of interesting. I'm kind of sad we don't get to explore even more like what life was like for Satomi those 3 years. We got, I guess, a little bit of that when like apparently like he's told the story or like written out the story, if I remember correctly from last episode, that he has written and talked about the story, because even students are like, was that a real story? Did that really happen to him? So that's kind of all we really get. We don't really know the aftermath of the choir situation. We know the teacher as well as his friend were kind of pissed at him, but where things stand on that front post that. I guess that's not the story. Kyoji and Satomi's dynamic and everything like directly involved in that is what mattered the most, even though the choir was just kind of like this backbone that served as a way to project the story, and it was important, but I guess it was also part of like Satomi's growth to show what was more important to him, like this whole winning this competition for like Kyoji versus like this thing that was kind of always this like anchor that he's just like, it's my last hurrah, but like he spent his last hurrah in service to Kyoji rather than the choir. It's just stuff like that. It's a really sweet and fun show. It's funny. There's a lot of heart and warmth to it. I think in between these episodes, it had to be like a little while ago, I swear I looked it up on Wikipedia, and apparently there is a sequel manga. It's one volume like Let's Go Karaoke and Captivated by You as well. Or am I thinking, no, I was about to say, I don't think it was Captivated by You. I'm pretty sure it's a Let's Go Karaoke sequel. That's like, I think it's supposed to be like after this story, like it is like him in college. I think it might be him coming back home after like being on like a college break or whatever, like he's back home or something like that. I swear I can't remember off the top of my head. I looked it up. It's called Let's Go to the Family Restaurant, and it is like a sequel and continuation of like the characters' dynamics, like all the flavors of Let's Go Karaoke. I'm sure just revolving around another, like maybe a family restaurant being the thematics. I don't know if that's like on Satomi's side or Kyoji's side, because I'm like, I don't think we know what Satomi's parents do, so maybe they do run a restaurant and maybe that's a correlation. Either way, there's been nothing on the front of like whether or not that's getting adapted or not. I'd hope that does into the future, or if not, just eventually tracking down the sequel manga and reading it, if there's even like an English translated version of it. But either way, I went over my whole diatribe there. Sorry, but just kind of letting you know there is like a further story. But yeah, I just think this is just like I said, a fun, beautiful story, and like I said with Let's Go Karaoke. Captivated by You, Jesus. Not Captivated by You, Jesus. Sorry, wording. It's funny saying that. The series Captivated by You. Like I was saying with that, thank you, Yama Wayama being the mangaka behind it, and obviously the directors and writers and the animators for the anime adaptations all across the board for both series, for that and this. Thank you. This is just kind of like a great, essentially, what, 10 or 11 week situation all across the board, having these like back to back and kind of concluding this with this bonus episode is just kind of nice and beautiful. So, yeah, that's obviously best wishes for everyone's future endeavors. And so that brings this whole discussion / review to an end. Really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.